Let's move, let's go, let's do it, let's flow. Let's move, let's go, let's do it, let's flow. Wanna sell across the country, wanna get to farther towns? Call Montway Auto Transport to ship the cars around. Yes. Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is L.A. Williams, Vice President with Dealer Synergy, and man, I am pumped up, fired up, super excited. I hope you are as well, because y'all know I don't host a lot of these doggone podcasts. I'm like in the background, you know what I'm saying, doing the doggone thing, making the music. I hope y'all like the new intro music that we got. Having a lot of good fun with that. Usually Sean is meeting with the people, but he's tied up right now. He's doing some other stuff. And so I get the distinct pleasure to work with our esteemed guest for today. So the lady who I'm going to introduce you to, I'm telling y'all, she's held literally every position at the dealership. She sold cars. She's been a manager, she's been a general manager, like with a franchise dealer group, right? So she ain't no small potatoes, right? At this point in time, she is the vice president of business development with Montway. But I don't think that's really the point. I want to introduce to you a powerhouse player in the automotive space, and that is the one and only Miss Mary Bartlett. What's happening, Mary?
Hey, Alec. Thanks for the intro. That was good.
Man. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you being here. So wow. So you were telling me a little bit, right before we pressed record, you were telling me about how you and I think so much alike. And a lot of my listeners of this podcast, they know that I always say, nobody says, I'm mommy, daddy, I want to grow up and sell cars, right? And then just before, can you just say what you said about, kind of coming out of college and all that kind of stuff? Because it was so similar to what I said.
Yeah. So like I said, I got out of college and, looking for a job. And I don't think my parents thought, we're going to send you to college to go sell cars, but that's what they did. Ended up in the automotive industry almost 20 years ago. So
wow, pretty cool. And it all started from a newspaper ad?
Yeah. So got out of college, couldn't find a job. And back then, going to show my age, you read the newspaper to find a job, right? You would read and see what was the news. And so I,
Right.
opened the middle of the newspaper and there was all these car dealers and they were advertising in the newspaper. And I thought, what a waste of their marketing dollars. And that's what my degree was in, was marketing. So I went to a handful of them and, made a proposal. Back then there weren't marketing managers in dealerships. That really wasn't a role that was off that you would see. So, if you'll give me your marketing budget, I'll put together a media mix. If it works for you and you sell cars, you can pay me a commission. And I did that for a handful of them. And then eventually one of them hired me. And from there, did marketing. And I'll never forget, LA, we had a big offsite sale where all the group brought their cars together, right? And there was a lot of traffic and I took an up because there was no one to take one, right? There's no idea what I was doing. And I sold the car and I made more money in that car sale than I was making doing marketing. And I'm like, I don't want to do marketing anymore. I want to sell cars.
I love it.
It's holding out on me. So, and then from there, just worked my way up, did F&I, used car manager, sales manager, DSM, and then GM. So.
Got you. All right. So wait, talk about that, because I'm telling you, the folks here, there are some people that are like, I mean, I might have sold my first car too, but then there's some people who took a couple of months to sell their first car. Like, what was it? Is it your background in marketing? Like, what did you use to be able to sell the car? And I guess if you were selling cars, obviously the number one question is, okay, how consistent? Like, how many cars did you sell on a monthly basis? Like, break that down for us. Those two things. Number one, how many did you sell? And then how did you figure that out? That's crazy.
So I think that people, I always say people don't buy cars, they buy experiences, right? I mean, if you're buying a new Infiniti QX60, right, you can go find it at a lot of different dealerships, right? But it's the experience that I think that they're buying. And so I always just tried to treat my people the way I would want to be treated, and I was at a SodaCon last week, and you're gonna have to tell me your second part of the question, but I want to point this out. I was at a SodaCon conference last week, and I listened to this awesome breakout And there were four great dealer groups. I mean, great dealer groups on this panel. And two were debating with the other two single point of contact selling versus the traditional sell. And
Hmm.
I mean, they both make sense. We've been selling the traditional way for forever, right? Where, the Foursquare and all of the things. And then you have this single point of sale that a lot of these groups are going to, where it's one person that follows that customer from beginning to the end. I don't know which one's better. But again, we're not selling to the same customer we were 20 years ago. And
Right.
and when you look at the most successful companies in the world, Amazon, they make it convenient, right? They make it somewhere you want to buy. They provide an experience that is easy. And so I think that's what it was when I started selling cars, was just providing an experience that people, they wanted to work with me and they wanted to come back and work with me. Um,
Hmm.
so, and I would say anywhere, and I live in Arkansas, so I don't live in a huge place. So
Right.
I would say, about 30 to 40 cars a month. So,
But
but I kept
listen,
doing
girl,
marketing as well. So I never got to not do marketing. So yeah.
you say that like
Mm,
that's a little number. You know what I'm
mm.
saying?
It's not,
You know the
it's
the
not, but
average.
it's a hustle, and
Yeah.
and it's hard work. I think that people forget, it's hot, it's raining, it does, you're out there with them, and they want to read and listen, we love customers, right? But they want to read every single line on that Maroni sticker, and you're like, we can take this inside and read it. But yeah, it's
Right.
a hard gig for sure.
That's pretty cool. Okay, cool. So people want to hear from a 30, 40 car sales girl. That's what I'm gonna tell you. They absolutely want to hear from. Right. So talk to us about, all right, you told me the story. Now I'm forgetting if it was pre or post recording, right? But tell me about this whole traffic thing. You said you ended up selling your first car. Can you just walk us through what you remember about that experience? I know it was a while ago, right? But what you
Yeah, it was
remember
a long
about
time ago.
how
Yeah.
you figured out how to get this person, like, because you, like you said, you took it up. So that's,
Hmm.
again, people, even for me as a blind person, right? People always ask
Hmm.
me, LA, have you taken it up before? And I'm excited I get to say yes, right? Because
Hmm.
I know it's a totally different experience. So just kind of
Hmm.
talk about that being a brand new person and then something that you took from that and you replicated throughout your car sales career.
Sure. So there's a couple different stories. Um, the first up that I took, it was a man and a woman, right? So, and I had listen. I would sit in the meetings, the sales meetings in the mornings, buy or die meetings, and so I would hear a lot of the word track. So I kind of knew
Right.
a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew enough to get the keys and talk, do a walk around and things like that. But I told them from the beginning, I'm like, listen, I'm not a salesperson. I don't work here in sales. I work here in marketing. And I think that immediately
Ah,
they were like,
yes.
oh, you're not a car salesman, you know? And so I think the walls were broke down pretty quick. I think if I sold cars, I probably would just continue to say that. Like, listen, I don't do
Exactly.
sales all the time here, because I used that a lot when I did sell cars.
Hmm.
And I would love for you to buy from us today, but more than anything, let's have a good experience and let's have fun. Let's have fun
Wow.
doing this. Like, this is an exciting time for you. I remember saying, like, this is probably your biggest purchase besides your house, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's get it right. I remember
That
saying,
is
let's
so
get it
good.
right. And
Right.
then, Chess drove the car and all of the things. And we still, and we're doing the traditional sell, what everyone did back then, the whole Foursquare and this and that, and take it
Hmm.
back and forth and back and forth. And I just told them, I'm like, this is the way we have to do this. And they were like, oh, that's fine. But
Yeah.
keeping them educated, what we're doing, why we're doing it, I think helped. And then my second sale was actually my favorite. So again,
Okay.
not selling cars, right? I'm officially not on the car sales roster. My name's not on the whiteboard in the room in the boardroom or anything. But I was walking from the new car building to the used car building, and I passed a gentleman, and he is wearing overalls, very common. I mean, I don't wear overalls, but
Yeah,
wearing
no, I
overalls
got you.
and a pair
Hmm.
of like old boots, and they were tucked in his pants were tucked in his boots, and he was looking at a brand new F-350.
Mm.
And it was quite a walk between the two. I watched three sales people pass by him,
Mm.
right? Well, just out of common Southern courtesy, I just greeted him and asked him if he was having a good day. And he said, I want to buy this truck. And I'm like, well, let me get you a salesperson. He was like, just how much? He gets his checkbook out of his front pocket and starts writing me a check for MSRP.
Wow.
And three salespeople passed him. And I said, "You got it. Let's give
That
him
is
time to get the."
amazing.
But it wasn't, I didn't sell anything. The guy just
Yeah,
wanted the
no.
truck, right? I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
talked to him.
It's so crazy because that's what, a lot of folks have been experiencing throughout COVID. It might have been more of a
Yeah.
conversation than that, but I mean, it was
Hmm.
really just like that. And so
Hmm.
back in the day, stories like that were like rare, right? But
Hmm.
but now it's like people like, ain't that how it's supposed to happen?
No.
No.
Right. Right. And we're going back to where we're not going to be able that we're, we have to learn how to sell, learn how to treat people the way and sell the way they want to be sold to. And because it's not COVID times, right? We're
Mhm.
have to put back on our sales hat and our,
Exactly.
so yeah.
Big deal. All right, cool. So then you so-called so one of the things I heard you say was, hey, I made more money doing this than I was doing marketing. What was the jump like? Because that's what even like when people hear this podcast, there's a lot of people who aren't in the industry yet. They hear the podcast
Mhm.
and go, oh shoot, I want to start. I'm way better. I think I want to sell cars, right? And so what was that jump like? Was it like did it double your money? Did it like what did that do for you?
Oh yeah, it was a double what I was making
Wow.
in a week. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
So,
So if you was making 2,000, 3,000, you went to making 4,000, 6,000.
yeah,
Wow.
it was good.
I already heard you answer the question of how to make money as a salesperson in the automotive industry, which is to create a great experience, right? And we talk about
Hmm.
that a lot on this podcast. It's one of the biggest conversations, right? I
Hmm.
got from the owners club, just like creating a great experience. Now, how do you replicate that as a manager, right? I know you became a manager and all that good stuff, but how do you, because sometimes it's tough to teach, right? Others how to do what you can do. How were
Hmm.
you a successful manager in the industry?
So, I have always been a manager that serves her team. So when I was given the store to be a general manager, as a number one, a female, and number two, I was young and I had people working at that dealership that, I mean, I had a person that worked for me that told me he had forgotten more than I will ever know about the car business on my first day. And I'm like, challenge accepted, right?
Right?
So I led by example. And my second day running the store, I cleaned the bathroom because it was dirty,
Get that. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And I think you have to show people that you want you want them to win at all cost. And if it
Hmm.
means you have to do the dirty work for them to go, sell something or be in front of a customer or the tactical stuff that nobody wants to do so that they can go sell and make money because they make money, I make money, right? I think is really important. And I still that way. So,
Yeah.
I worked for one of the best leaders I worked for. He is now president and CEO of Carfax. He had this huge job at Carfax when I was his direct report. I mean, obviously he has one now. And if you ever met him on the street and you asked him, "What do you do? Like, what's your job?" He would say, "I serve a team of these people that go out and work with automotive dealerships." Never like I'm the vice
The
president of
president,
Montway. Like
CEO, right?
nobody
Yeah.
cares, right? Nobody
Yeah.
cares. Just
Yeah.
can you help me or not?
100%.
So
That is so cool. And I'm telling you, and I do talk a lot about success, right? We got the Against All Odds radio show. We got this podcast here. And, you hear it a lot. A lot of these, big time leaders, quote unquote, aren't the what you would call big time. They're the, hey, servant leadership. It's all about servant leadership. So I think
mhm,
that's awesome. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you have to do as a high level manager, right? Some of the number one concerns that you have. I know that especially with COVID, right? It was like okay, didn't have vehicles, right? And now we're starting to have vehicles, but it's still hard to find vehicles. I know that those are some of the challenges. Can you just talk about different things that you have to do, and then we can kind of get into some of the solutions that managers and things can use to get those things done?
The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast is on your radio.
Have you gone through any of Cody Carter's training that we have on there, or Ali Retta yet, or those big dogs?
Not yet. Man, those like everything's been so exciting with just like I started with the to brush up on showroom sales
Yeah.
again, because now we're back to like selling and not taking orders. Um, I've been brushing up on that, but like I'm just afraid that if I click on that, I'm gonna get 100% sucked into that, and like it's so much information, but it's in a digestible form, and now I'm going back on myself because I did say it's like 2, 3, 4 minute videos in each like segment, which I could dive into it, but it's like I already know that Cody Carter thing's like that is probably gonna blow my mind
Yeah, man. Yeah.
the moment I watch it, you know.
Listen, if you don't have access to Bradley On Demand, you're missing out on crucial information. The top automotive groups like Coons, Lithia, and Norm Reeves have all used Bradley On Demand to train their teams. And guess what? The world's #1 car salesman, Cody Carter, shares his exclusive strategies right here. You want his secrets? You gotta have Bradley On Demand. Stop waiting and start winning. Dominate your market. Click the link and get access now.
So one of them you just said was, time. Like, okay, they're really, really busy, people back, and, now this stuff is getting to be a lot tougher. So what are the things that they have to master in order to be a great manager? I heard you say servant leadership, right? This other one sounds to be like time maximization. That's what we like to call it, right? So let's just say, I am a GSM, right? I'm not the GM, but I'm GSM, and I'm really, really busy. And I'm like, Mary, you were a GM. What are some things that I can do? What are some things I can take off my plate? Like, how can I make this thing work? Because my head's spinning now.
As a salesperson or as a manager?
Well, as a manager, I just, I pretty much play the role of the GM, right? I'm only the GSM, but I play the role of the GM. But I'm also working with a lot of my salespeople. So I'm just trying to figure out what can I do to calm things down. This is like unorganized chaos. It ain't even organized chaos.
Making sure your people feel heard. And I mean, people first, right? Always people first.
Okay.
At this conference that I was at last week, we were having a conversation about the cell phone, right? It's everyone's looking down at it, and whether it's your customer, and a lot of times we're looking down at it as managers or as a desk manager or GM, because a lot of the technology that you need to do your job is right here on your phone.
Right.
But I think the salesperson standing at the desk doesn't necessarily always know that. And so they can feel like, am I really do you hear what I'm saying? Do you hear, what I'm actually saying to you?
Yeah.
And when people don't feel like they're heard, what does that satisfaction look like, right? I mean, when they feel like that you're not listening, I think is very important. And I don't know that necessarily takes anything off of a GM's plate, but I just think it's very important to be really mindful of. But when you put your people first and they feel heard, they work really hard for you, and they learn. I've learned that they figure a lot of things out on their own and moving forward. Not that they don't need you, but you want them to eventually get to the point where like they're not having to come to you for everything. So investing that time in them up front, I think gives them better job satisfaction and keeps people longer. And then eventually you're not having to hold their hand all the time, which frees up time. So,
yeah, that's a big deal. That's a huge thing. And you say it like, I don't know if it takes stuff off the plate, but I definitely think it does, because it makes their staff that much more impactful, right? And so if I have an impactful staff, then I have to do less, which allows me to focus on, maybe higher level tasks, certain things. Let's say if I'm looking for a certain vehicle, if transportation is a thing, hey, if I'm, I need to buy more cars, or I need to, whatever it is that I need to do to make their job easier. It's like everybody gets to work for one another.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool.
And not fresh out of the gate, but giving people the autonomy to just do what's right, and I think it's very, very important.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, cool. So let's fast forward a little bit, because like you said, you were GM, then you were working with Carfax, and now, doing your thing with Montway. I know that based on the type of person you are, right? I know you're not the kind of person that's just like, okay, I'm going to work here just because it's a paycheck, right? I mean, I already heard your entrepreneurial mind from the standpoint of the newspaper into, getting to do some marketing, right? You were doing that because you were passionate about it, right? You helped with sales, not because, I mean, I'm sure the paycheck helped, but it was also the passion of, hey, let me help provide a great experience, because these people walking by this guy, and they're not even helping them. Like folks need help,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
can tell that everything you do, you have there's like a passion behind it. There's a reason. And so can you talk a little bit about why you like working with Montway, and how does it help dealers? Like, how does it, a real dealer, not like, not the elevator Montway pitch, but like
Yeah.
from your personal
Yeah.
perspective, how is
Mm-hmm.
it helpful? What does it mean to you to represent a company like Montway?
Mm-hmm. So dealers are some of the smartest people ever. I mean, they're smart. They work hard. Their minds move a million miles a minute, and they have their finger on the pulse of so many things. But one of the things that I found coming over to Montway is transportation is kind of in the back of their mind in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And I saw interviewing here a, a solution that, like I've talked about, brings transparency and consistency uh, to their transportation. So we have a technology called the Montway Automated Portal. It's short for MAP, right? And this is a free portal that we give to dealers, and you can have as many users as you want to. And a used car buyer sitting in Houston looking at a car in Chicago can go online, go on this portal, and get a real-time quote, and that quote is not going to change. And so, you've heard it probably literally 1,000 times. You make money when you buy the car, so you
Yep.
can't put too much in the transport. And knowing what you're going to have in the transport before you even bid on that car is very helpful. So you can get a real-time quote. If you buy the car, you come back, you put that VIN right in our portal, and that transportation starts for you. You can watch that vehicle from the time you place the order and all of the things that happens with it until it's delivered. It keeps track of all of your paperwork and after it's delivered or even during, so you can upload your gate passes, your pickup BOL, your drop-off BOL, photos are in there. And then once it's delivered, an invoice is created right then. And so you can associate cost of that unit to the vehicle. So you're not waiting just in case, what if you sell the car and then you paid commission on the difference in the transport. So all of that's taken care of. So our business office people love it because they can just go pull an invoice right out and get it paid. Um, or we work with dealer partners in a way. I had a meeting with a dealer group about 2 weeks ago, and the used car director was telling me I wrote 150 checks last month for transporters. And I'm like,
Wow.
no, you just pay me once. Just write me a check once a month. That's too much work, son. I mean, it's
Hmm.
carpal tunnel.
Right.
But it just allows, ease and convenience. The portal also, we do a lot of home deliveries. So this excites me too. We have a group in Northern California that we work with, and they sell a lot of vehicles all over the country. And so again, having that experience being built backwards, like I said, with moving one car at a time, we're really good at it. So this technology also will allow the salesperson to send a link to their end customer, and it provides like a FedEx type tracking for the customer, so they can kind of
Oh,
watch their vehicle like I'm watching my Amazon package,
yeah.
come to their house and be delivered. So it creates, that's great for satisfaction, for the end customer, the end customer that buys the car. So really just bringing that transparency excited me, right? Like
Yeah.
work in the past, working with dealer groups at Carfax, knowing that this is a solution that can really help them, and then it locks in the price. And so we are not, we will pre-negotiate lanes with groups. We are very competitive, and you know what you're going to pay. In times like now, this month has been crazy. Snowbird season has stuck around and stuck around and stuck around, and it's not going away. It seems it's going to get better. It's got to get better.
Right.
And the load boards are at capacity and all of these things, and prices are high. We didn't go back to our dealer partners and say, you got to pay us more money. We didn't do that. So, I think that that's really important too, in being a good partner is, all of those things, but really knowing what you're gonna pay um,
Right.
before you buy the car.
I
So,
like
and
that.
again, that portal's free, so it's not something that is extra for the dealers. It's just part of doing business with Montway.
Right. Now I like that. That's pretty cool. So I just want you to kind of break it down from a GM's perspective, right? Let's say, as the GM, right? Let's say if I worked at Montway, what are some of the things that you would be thinking that like what are the objections that you would give yourself, right? You're like, I don't
Mhm.
need this because such and such, or what is the
Mhm.
the general manager who's not quite thinking, because they got runners, right? They got people who can
Mhm.
pick up these cars, drop them off, pick LA up from the airport when they want to bring them in for
Yeah.
training, right?
Mhm.
They got
Yeah.
those kind of things. So
Mhm.
what's the conversation like with them?
So I think that when um, there are a lot of GMs that have been, they'll post it themselves on a load board, which is not wrong. I mean, it's not necessarily a wrong way to do it.
Hmm.
Those carriers, are they vetted? Are they not vetted? I don't know, and in our space, we've seen a lot of fraud by not knowing who you're putting your asset, on their truck. So,
Hmm.
using a broker, they think it's going to be much more expensive than posting things yourself on Central or any load board for that matter. It's not. We have the extra layer of protection with the insurance that I talked about. We have a $4 million umbrella policy, but also, we vet our carriers, not just once when we bring them on, but we have a team that's all that they do. There's a lot of fraud out there currently in the transportation space, bad actors not doing the right thing. So, protecting your asset as well as really having a true partner, right? One person to call, we say one throat to choke, right? One wringable neck. And that's us, right? That's not a random carrier that you don't really know much about them. Is their insurance company their wife that you're calling? You don't know. And
Right.
I mean, and they're not all, I mean, it's not all bad, but having a partner like Montway, you have your business development manager that you would work with that works on my team, but we have a whole other side of the business and account management that they're working at our right outside of Detroit at our office, and they're answering the phone if you can't get other people on the phone to know where your cars are at. But really, we do all that back and forth for you. Where posting on a load board, you're fielding phone calls from carriers offering you different things. You're calling them to try to figure out where they're at, what's happening with this car, all of these things. Number one, you're going to have the transparency of our technology to be able to go on and actually look. And then number two, you're going to have all of those points of contact with your salesperson and your account manager that will be there, to help you with orders and problems and anything that come up.
I mean, yeah, but Mary, my whole thing is that I've got, these senior citizens that they work remote, they at the dealership, and if I need to send them to go get a car or go pick up something or stuff like that, it's almost like this is their retirement job. I got folks that's 65, 70, 75 years old, and they pretty much do the job, and they do a good job of staying in contact with me. They're not these young whippersnappers that you can't count on. You can pretty much count on these folks. What am I
Yeah.
supposed to do with them? Are they going to be out of a job?
Yeah. I mean, you got the coffee club, right? That's in the lobby there, right? I mean,
Hmm.
when I ran a store, they hung out and drank my coffee too, and they're great guys. And I'm not
Hmm.
telling you that you should send them home. They're great for shorter mile moves, right? You need to go pick up a car 100 miles away, 150 miles away. Yeah, I mean, use them,
Hmm.
right? That's what they're there for. But what does your liability look like whenever you're in Texas and you need to send them to Wyoming to go pick up a car? Are you able to watch them then? Do you know what's happening then? So that's where I would say
Yeah, that
we
is
would
something that I
we
was
could come
worried
into
about.
play, is that we can help you with those longer mile moves. And a lot of dealers have a local guy, right? They have someone that's running within a few hundred miles of their store, and they've used them for 15 or 20 years. Keep using them. They do a good job for you. Keep using them, right? But let me help you on your longer mile moves, or you know uh, something that they can't do, right? You got a guy local, you got a coffee club within a few store to store. We want to be your guy for everything else, right? So don't fix what's not broken. Let me help
Yeah.
you with what you need help with. So
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. All right, cool. No, this is really, really good stuff. And I think it's valuable for people to hear that, right? Because again, these are the challenges that I come across when I'm meeting with dealers and talking to them about, transportation. These are some of the challenges, the objections or whatever that I'm coming across,
mhm.
right? Are there any others that you or your team come across that you're like, hey, you know what? I just want to make sure I address this.
It's not really objections that we haven't really covered, but again, I think it goes back to the customer service and putting people in relationships first. And so I'll give you an example. I mean, things go wrong. Like I would be lying to you, LA, if I told you that every single move we have goes smooth as butter, because that would be anyone that tells you that in this space is not telling you the truth.
Right.
Trucks break down, carriers cancel, things just happen. They just happen.
Right.
But the difference between Montway, and again, another reason that I love working here and other companies, is I had a used car director in El Paso, Texas, call me the day before Thanksgiving. And we had this Ford Raptor that was going to California for this, I think he was like an influencer or something, right? El Paso, like there's not a lot of trucks sitting out in El Paso, just to let you
Right.
know, looking for a vehicle to take to California. Thanksgiving, my house is full of people, full of my family from out of town. And he calls me and he says, Mary, I'm not happy. Your carrier showed up and this won't fit on his truck. And now I got this truck that's got to get to, you know, California today, right? We're closed tomorrow. So I talked to his used car manager and he's like, listen, if you can just get me somebody here tomorrow, I will meet them up here. I live 2 blocks from the dealership. So it cost us some money, right? It cost Montway some money, but it was the right thing to do, is to deliver this truck to this customer, because that's the last thing that dealer group needs. It's an influencer talking about them and ruining their reputation that they've spent. It's a 3rd generation car dealership group, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So, and that's everything, right? So we paid for it. We got it moved on Thanksgiving, and we did it for our dealer partner. That's what makes us different. Like, we understand. When I say my people understand, whenever you have a vehicle that's a day late, what it does for it. I mean, maybe it's sold, it doesn't, and the deal gets unwound. Holding costs, what it costs that dealer every day to not have that vehicle, because they started paying for it the day they bought it at the auction. What it could possibly do to arbitration if it's late, and then they can't arbitrate the vehicle. So we truly understand the pain points. And I think that is what really sets us apart. So.
Yeah. And I can hear it in your voice. I can hear the sincerity, right? It's not like, just a pitch or something like that. So I really appreciate that. Now, here's what I know about success and about, you don't get as far as you have gotten, and you aren't able to speak like this from your heart as well as you do without any kind of training or reading or developing or anything like that. If someone wanted to get to a place like how Mary is, right? Are there some books that you recommend? Are there some training? I heard you say you were at the conference. That's a big deal, right? You was at a SodaCon. That's awesome, right? What are some of the things that you do to develop yourself?
So I'm consistently reading. So stack of books behind me. Okay. And I'm actually reading now. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality. It's a guy that spoke at a SodaCon. It's so good. So good.
Definitely a good book.
But I have, so when COVID hit, my VP, we started doing a book club, and he would send us all a book, and we were all like, oh, are you kidding me? And then we, as a first team, as a management team, would meet once a month and go through the book. And it was the best thing you could have done for us. I mean, I read anyway, but then you just kind of get into the habit and you get busy. You're like, I don't have time to reinvest in myself. Like, I got too much stuff to do. I had a leader one time tell me, you set the time, 5 minutes or 20 minutes a day, doing something that makes you uncomfortable. That's what he said. And I thought, what are you talking about? Well, like, to me, that's investing in myself, or reading, or LinkedIn learning, or whatever the things, watching a TED talk, all of those things. But it's really, really important that as leaders, we take 20 minutes a day, or however long you need a day, to reinvest in yourself. Because when you do that, your people are going to feel it. So I would say I read a lot. I watch a lot of TED Talks. I follow a lot of great people, you guys, the guys at a SodaCon, and then a lot of Clubhouse, right? And that's really listen to a lot of things on there. But just staying in the, connecting with people. So, and then I ask a lot of questions. So,
Mm.
last week meeting with dealer groups and even other vendors in the space, I asked them questions like, what keeps you up at night? What are you worried about? You know? Um, and I think that's really important too.
Yeah, no, I think all of that is great. All of that is great, great stuff. Okay, cool. So I want to make sure that the people, I mean, again, if they haven't gotten this so far, right? You also sound like you've trained on a number of things, whether that's speaking, right? Or you done did something, Mary. Like, come on, you got to give them the secret, right? You got to tell them like, how did you become the person? Because I heard you say about the unreasonable hospitality, right? We could dive into that. I don't want to go give him too much. Y'all should definitely read the book, though. I'm telling, and he's got YouTube videos too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not
Mm-hmm.
really a reader, you want to get some. I've picked up nuggets from unreasonable hospitality. That's why as soon as she said it, I was all in on it, right? So I highly recommend it. But tell the folks just a training resource that just something unusual. I mean, something that most folks wouldn't even think of would be beneficial to them. Can you give folks at least one training resource?
There's so much out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Something you use though, something that that.
I watch a lot of LinkedIn Learning, so personally, and I read a lot of books. Like I said, um, my daughter, she's 14, almost 15,
Okay.
and when she wants something from her father and I really bad, she will put together a full presentation for us, right? So she wanted Snapchat, which is bad news that she
All
doesn't
right.
have it. But she did
Uh-huh.
put together a lovely presentation on why she should get it, right? Um, and so I think that practice makes perfect. And that's what I always tell her. No one's perfect, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the more educated you are and the more you practice, and that's what I would tell my salespeople in the dealership. You're brand new people that were so scared of, doing a walk around. Like these this isn't the president of the United States. That these are just people. These are just people that want to buy a car. And when you treat them like your family or just people, then you get comfortable. Practice makes perfect, and you're going to get better at it every single time. And so just don't give up, you know. Um, my my number one salesperson that worked for me in the store, he worked the service drive, which is something that I think doesn't happen very often. But he didn't go back there to sell cars. He went back there to drink coffee and build relationships.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important too. And like I said earlier, like you can't walk into a dealership every single time and just, if you'd use this and you sell one more car because of it, you've paid for
The
itself.
corniest, right? The corniest line.
Nobody wants to hear that. Stop
Right.
saying that, vendors. Stop saying that, right? So just again, you got to know how people want to be sold to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's whether you're the vendor or selling a car.
Yeah,
So,
that's beautiful. That's beautiful stuff. And I love that about your daughter. My son will be 15 in July. So we kind of like right on the same. And
mm,
he's a basketball kid, right? So whenever
mm,
he wants these shoes, he had me get these shoes from where far, I don't even know. And he's like, I'm like, all right, so why you got to have these shoes, Jeremiah? Like,
right.
I'll make him break it all the way down to me, right? Every time he asks
Mm-hmm,
for anything, he definitely has to come up with a whole dissertation as to why it makes
mm-hmm,
sense, right? So
mm-hmm.
yeah, awesome stuff. I
Good
love it.
for
All
them.
right. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. So just tell the folks, I mean, overall, I know you told us about Montway, you told us about the business. What is it that sets the automotive industry apart from every other industry as far as you're concerned? What do you love about it?
Oh gosh, there's so many things I love about it. But I would go back to number one, the people. The
Mm,
people.
yeah.
There is not I mean, I would dare to say that there is not a group of more giving people that care for their communities. And I think people in their mind, I remember years and years ago at Carfax that I read this study about the American public trust a U.S. senator more than they do a used car salesman or something like that, a politician more
Yeah.
than,
Hmm.
and we got to change that culture, right? These are good people. So I would say the people, I mean, like I said, they give to their community, they care, they work so hard. I mean, you know, I mean, you have a GM of a dealership that's putting hours and hours and hours of work in to build this thing so all of these other people can make tons of money. Like that's a servant, you know? Um, And so it's the people, and then I love cars. I do. I always have. And I'd interview people and they're like, well, why do you want to be in the car business? I love cars. And I thought that's the stupidest answer I've ever heard. But I do. Like I do. My daughter, she loves to get in the car with her friends and say, Mom, do the car thing. We'll be on the interstate. And I'm like, F-150, Silverado, Kia Soul, Toyota Camry. Like, because I've been in it for so long, I know all the cars, and she thinks it's the coolest party track. It's what Mom knows, So what I do, I love them.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah,
I love that. All right, cool. So just let's kind of close this thing out. Just give us a closing statement. Let us all know how, if we wanted to get connected with you for whatever purposes, whether it's going to go Montway, whether they got some questions about success, questions about, parenting. Sounds like you got some good parenting advice.
I don't know about that. They can call me.
How should they reach out?
Yeah, so you can email me just at mary.bartlett@montway.com.
Okay.
You can go on our website, montway.com. Make sure you go under there's a drop down for dealership. Don't pull a price on my website. You're going to get a retail price, and that's not what you're going to pay if you're a car dealer. So don't pull that price and think you're going to pay that. It's really for our retail customers. But yeah, just shoot me an email, go online. You can fill out a form there. But really the easiest way to get connected to my team or myself would just to send me an email direct.
Okay, awesome. Well, listen, Mary, this has been fun. I'm telling you, I always have a great time, just having great conversation with great people, right? And I always tell people, listen, you are the average of the people who you spend the most time with, and you've just been spending time with the blind master, L.A. Williams, and the winner of what was that award that you won last year, girl? That was fire.
Women in Supply Chain Logistics.
Oh man, I'm trying to tell you, y'all just been spending time with her, the one and only Miss Mary Bartlett. It's your turn. Go out there and be a millionaire car salesman. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.
Bye, guys.